Abortion activists in Missouri want to put an amendment on the ballot in 2024 that would enshrine abortion in the state. So far, pro-life Republican Attorney General Andrew Bailey has refused to allow the amendment to appear on the ballot in 2024. Defiant abortion promoters have now escalated the case as high as the state's Supreme Court. Potential ballot amendments in Missouri must be reviewed for financial impact, and the Attorney General refuses to give this amendment the green light. He says the state auditor's assessment of its cost is far too low. It's notable that the state auditor, Scott Fitzpatrick, is also pro-life. He campaigned on keeping taxpayer monies away from Planned Parenthood and was endorsed by the Missouri Right to Life PAC. Lower courts in Missouri have ruled the Attorney General does not have authority to challenge the financial report, despite his role as chief enforcer of Missouri law. In response, General Bailey appealed the case to the Missouri Supreme Court. A decision is expected by the end of the month. Here to explain more about what's going on in Missouri is Will Scharf. He's a candidate for Missouri Attorney General. Will, thanks for joining me. Before we get into the meat of this, can you briefly explain what pro-life Missourians will be up against if this pro-abortion amendment does make its way onto the ballot in 2024?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. A longtime fan of yours, and just great to be with you.
Oh, thank you, Will.
Your listeners, your viewers likely know that in recent years, the pro-abortion lobby has been very aggressive about attempting to move ballot referendum initiatives in different states around the country. Sometimes that's been facilitated by state Supreme Courts, as was the case in Kansas several years ago. What we're seeing in Missouri now is a continuation of that trend. We're seeing pro-abortion groups that can't pass bills in the legislature, don't have control of any statewide offices, really don't have much of a political constituency in the state, attempting to achieve through confusingly worded ballot initiatives what they can't achieve through the normal democratic process of representative government. If there are a number of different measures that the pro-abortion community is attempting to get on the ballot in Missouri, ranging from elective abortion on demand at any stage to somewhat more limited measures. But to say the least, if they're successful in getting a pro-abortion measure on the ballot next year, we're in for a very serious fight. And I think all of us who care about life issues in Missouri are eyes open about the challenges that we as a movement face in the coming year.
Right, right. And Will, this is a unique set of circumstances in Missouri. I'm hoping that you can break it down for us. And something important that I hope you can clear up for our viewers is what's going on between the AG and the state auditor right now. Two leaders with seemingly pro-life records, but they seem to be at odds on approving this initiative.
Right. So it's a funny dispute. It's a hyper-technical dispute. But fortunately, we pro-life Missourians seem to be the beneficiary of the dispute, at least for now.
Sure.
What's going on is the auditor is responsible for preparing what's called a fiscal note. That's some materials that accompany a ballot initiative explaining how much the initiative would cost if it were passed or if it were to fail. The Attorney General tried to submit information to be included in that fiscal note that the auditor didn't think he could lawfully include. And now somehow they're litigating in front of the state Supreme Court over this kind of arcane aspect of the initiative petition process. Fortunately, though, for us, as long as they are litigating, the pro-abortion lobby can't start collecting signatures for this initiative petition. So as long as this is tied up in the courts, we're effectively running the clock on the pro-abortion movement, and that's really to our benefit, those who care about life issues in the state. So it's an interesting kind of quirky legal argument. I wouldn't say who I think has the better argument here, but I think we are all hopeful that it will be difficult for the pro-abortion lobby to gather enough signatures on time to get this thing on the ballot. And we're also, we're all getting ready to dig in to fight if they do manage to get it on the ballot.
Right. And Will, you're running for Attorney General in the state. So I'm curious how you would handle a situation like this. If this pro-abortion amendment were on the ballot and you were the Attorney General, what would you do to stop this extremism from encroaching such a pro-life state?
Yeah, I mean, we need to fight like hell for life. I mean, we need to be trying to protect every baby. It's an important issue to me personally. I was policy director to a previous governor of Missouri. We actually called a special session of the legislature to pass pro-life, pro-mother measures in the summer of 2017. Because back then we faced a similar issue to what we may face in the future, which is the pro-choice community attempting to kind of steal a march on pro-lifers in the state. But we were successful then. Missouri was essentially an abortion-free state even before Dobbs, which was an incredible accomplishment. And I think that as long as pro-lifers in Missouri get together and fight hard, we're going to be able to keep Missouri abortion-free. And I think that's really just a testament to the conservative pro-life values of the state and its voters.
Right, absolutely. And it is important to note that Missouri was the first state to ban abortion literally hours after Roe was overturned. There are no operating abortion clinics in the state right now. Talk to me a little bit about the progress that's been made, not only since Dobbs came down, but even before that.
Sure. So you go back to 2015, Missouri had, I think it was about 5,000 elective abortions a year. It was just a huge number for a state of a relatively limited population of a little over 6 million. Thanks to the measures we were able to pass in the summer of 2017, it became much, much tougher for abortion clinics to operate in the kind of cavalier fashion that they'd become accustomed to. What we passed were really very simple, common sense healthcare protections for mothers and babies, requiring clinics to think about things like medical complications, requiring doctors to be more involved in the consenting process. And Planned Parenthood's response to that was basically to shut down half their clinics. At least one other was shut down after a random inspection found wildly unsafe conditions there. And finally, we've gotten to a place where Planned Parenthood, which I think is just, it's a frankly evil organization. Planned Parenthood has decided that it's not worth attempting to fight us, and they've pulled out of the state. So that's a victory, but it could be a temporary victory. That if these pro-abortion lobbyists and advocates are able to change our state constitution to establish, a new legal regime around abortion clinics, everything that we've fought for the better part of a decade would be at risk. I think you mentioned it. It was a powerful statement that post-Dobbs, actually, former Attorney General, now Senator Eric Schmidt, signed basically a proclamation taking into effect our trigger law.
Sure.
But the fact that Missouri was the first state to move after Dobbs really shows to me it's indicative of Missouri's broader leadership on issues of life. And certainly as a candidate, if elected, I'd look to be a leader on life issues, as many others in Missouri have been for a long time.
That's assuring to hear. It's good to know that Missourians are still on offense for life, and we're grateful that you could join us today. Thanks so much, Will Scharf, candidate for Missouri Attorney General.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course.